The Constitution will not be saved in Washington.
As a physician and surgeon, I have great admiration for medical professionals, scientists, and all who are working around the clock to curb the spread of COVID-19. I am also a man of faith. Live each day so that you are more prepared to meet your Maker.
Travis went good, so got inspired to do another video, which is going to keep me away from the King Follett Discourse translation example for you, and keep me from doing other stuff today. But Jonestown, Jim Jones, he started it in San Francisco. It was a faith-healing religion where you can be healed by faith. And he decided to take everybody down to Guyana. Did I pronounce that right? And created Jonestown, Zion, Utopia, Nirvana, whatever language and culture you want to call it. And there was Congressman Leo Ryan, who went down there to find out what was going on, make sure people were safe, because I believe there was somebody who was concerned about their daughter, and he was assassinated, and other murders were involved with that congressional check-in. This was in 1978, it appears. Oh wow. But this is where the phrase "don't drink the Kool-Aid" comes from, and I've been listening to Accept. Didn't realize they had this song. So when I started connecting the church to drinking Kool-Aid, I found that song and went, oh, isn't that nice? Awesome song. But yeah, it's a horrible tragedy that a leader of a religious movement who didn't believe in science, instead believed in faith to heal people, decided that in order to cover up the crimes he was committing, the atrocities that he was committing from the United States government, he chose to murder, and then had all of his followers drink poison Kool-Aid. It was a suicide thing. Which, in order to know how to use cyanide poisoning, you have to have an understanding of some level of science. No faith healing in that process, is there? So it was all a sham, it was all a con. Religion was just a front to control people. And enforced it with murder. Ended up dying himself. And so, as Mormons, who were born and raised in the church like I am, am, we don't get told that we worship Lucifer. We don't get told that we are required to hate rather than love. And they tell us our God is Jesus Christ. It's in the title of the name, as we go around telling everybody. What do you mean we're not Christian? See, Jesus Christ, it's in the name. And we go around believing that our church is the real church of love, God's love, the tree of life, love of God, and yet we are all born and raised by parents in the Mormon church who teach us Lucifer's plan of happiness, taking away agency, controlling us. And they don't tell us this. They say, well, we're your parents. You have to obey us. In my household, you will do what I tell you to do, or you can get out. It's my way or the highway. That's all Lucifer's plan. Plan for happiness. Yay! Families can be together forever through Lucifer's plan of happiness. That's a church song. I think it was originally primary. It may have been elevated to a hymn. I think I do recall singing it in sacrament meetings. But as a result of Lucifer's teachings presented by our parents, though it's called we're Mormon, we're your parents, instead we're of the true church, and everything we feel like doing is from God and from the Holy Ghost. And that then teaches us as kids. And in my family, I was the oldest. I rebelled. I didn't want my agency taken. I wanted freedom. And I didn't like the economy that I was born into. It takes away my freedom. I didn't like the government I was born into. It takes away my freedom. All because my parents tried to take away my freedom. Controlling my property. All to justify it. We're Mormon. We're inspired by God. We're your parents. We were foreordained to help you, teach you how to be an adult. And so for me, I rebelled. That can't be the right way. There is a better way. And I sought for a better way. And so thus I'm the black sheep. But my siblings conformed and complied. My sister Tiffany, however, she was able to figure out how to play the parents against each other, to use me as her excuse for getting what she wanted. She's a little con. And she still continues to live that conning lifestyle, con woman lifestyle, as she would tell experiences as a mother. and a wife, and but all that came from the upbringing and teaching of our Mormon parents, hardcore Mormon parents. Both my parents, my mom went on mission as well, and so this was back in the days where a woman didn't go on a mission unless she was unable to get married. In my mom's case, Grandpa took the family down to Southern California, and so the Mormon population back then was slim pickings, and so that's why she moved to Utah, was to look for a husband. That was how she was raised. That the only person to marry is a Mormon. And slim pickings, even in Utah at that time. As she married my dad, who was a, what's the word? Womanizer? Who was a Democrat and had different views on the church as a result. And so she only married him because she believed the Spirit had told her that he was the one she was supposed to marry. And he had served a mission. And so that fit her checklist of requirements that her parents and the church had taught her to do for selecting a mate. And I became the firstborn birthright blessing son of that awkward union. And what I'm facing as I'm a black sheep of the church, because I wouldn't conform and comply to just reading the church-approved curriculum. It wasn't enough for me. There were too many answers or too many questions unanswered. And so I went and pursued knowledge wherever it took me. I didn't let the church threaten me, and I was not living in Utah, so I didn't have Mormons to threaten me, although the institute teacher up in Canada, when I told him that I was taking philosophy of science, he warned me, don't take that, because every Mormon I've seen take that loses their testimony. And I had known by that time that you can't lose a testimony. You either have one or you don't. You can lose faith. Alma 32, starting in verse 28, tells us you can lose faith by saying, don't cast the seed, which is the word, out by your unbelief. So yes, you can lose a faith in the word, but you can't lose a testimony. It can be destroyed by the enemy or by yourself as you burn it to the ground and go in complete and utter denial. Nope, I did not taste that fruit. I did not taste it here or there. I did not taste it anywhere. I did not taste it in a car. I did not taste it in a bar. Green eggs and ham. Good old Dr. Seuss. I mean, fruit is a physical witness. A seed, it's not fruit. It's not a physical witness of anything. It's just a seed. And then you bury it in the ground. You don't see it. You don't know if it's working. you have to have faith. But once it sprouts, you go, hey, whoa, it's a living seed, it's good. But you got to keep waiting. And so the scriptures are just full of examples of how this process works. You know, boat builders and such. And so being raised in the church, wanting to be free, wanting to learn, not wanting to be told, no, you can't look for that answer. No, that's higher level spirituality. Don't go there. That's deep doctrine. Stay away from it. You know, deep doctrine will take you down the wrong path. That's intellectualism. It's evil. And now we're getting into the science deniers in the church. As the church leaders have raised Mormons to raise Mormons to be faith healers. Mormons live by what they claim is just the Spirit. They don't go through Alma chapter 32 starting in verse 28. They stop with the Word. Here's the seed. Now you know everything. And I'm just horrified that Mormons can't see this, because that's what the church has done to Mormons. Turned them into science deniers. I mean, our Mormonism is science-based. You know, the whole seed thing, that's the science of agriculture. And they've turned it into a spiritual healing. And now during this coronavirus, as Nelson says, hey, I'm one of these guys. I'm a medical doctor. But I'm also a man of faith. I just went, oh, crap. He pulled the faith healer card as he, for a second time, both of which have failed, you can't claim his fast to cure coronavirus worked. I think it's a little obvious now. How many months now? How severe has it gotten? Yeah, no, it was not cured. Nelson failed to be a faith healer. He's a science denier, having lived his whole life as a scientist, working as a heart surgeon. He knew how to handle this virus. As a medical doctor, you all know what to do. They all get trained. It may not be his specialty, but he knows what to do. I mean, we even all know what to do. We've seen those movies. There's a virus that leaks, and so the federal government comes in, and they're all in hazmat suits, and they tent the place. I mean, X-Files even had it. I'm pretty sure the majority of you are familiar with X-Files. The movie where the liquid alien goo is discovered, possesses the kid. Yeah, that's quarantine. You make sure the virus doesn't escape the quarantine. And are we following that? Nope. Nope. Mm-mm. That's what they did in China. Took them a while. They had to quarantine everybody in the city. But they got it. And when an outbreak reemerged, they immediately controlled it again. I mean, that's what you have to do. You take away agency. But you don't leave people to die in quarantine. What good is it to try to heal people in quarantine, but then deny them food and toilet paper, exercise? That sort of defeats the purpose of trying to heal people, to do no harm. But that's not their job, to feed people. That becomes the government's job. In the beginning, if they just quarantined those that came over on the cruise line, shut down all the ports of entry everywhere, quarantining anybody who comes into our nation who tests positive, which means they'd have to be screened at the borders and screened at the airports, screened at the water ports. They knew how to do this. They were told how to do this. But they didn't. They purposely allowed it to spread. And I've gone over how this was done. But Nelson is now handing out Kool-Aid to the Mormons. You have Bednar going around saying, oh, this virus has taken away our agency. We have the First Amendment right to gather at church. Screw the Book of Mormon and the Zoramite story from Alma. You don't need a building to worship God. A virus is not a human being. It is not something that can be punished so that it doesn't harm human beings again. It's a virus. And the only way to handle it is to take away agency. But we don't need to have people in bondage without toilet paper, without access to food. We don't need to keep the businesses open. We don't need to provide businesses with money for the losses during the quarantine, during the shutdown. There are people running the business. That's their employment. Give them the $600 too. Oh, but they make a lot more money as the owners. Yeah, well, maybe you want to give them more than 600. Give everybody more. Or give out the food to the people for free. That's what you do during an emergency. I mean, when you have a natural disaster that just destroys, first responders just go in. I mean, if they're worried about getting paid for helping rescue people, you don't want them rescuing you. You know, when I was a firefighter up in Canada, that's why I did it. I wasn't concerned about the death pay that I got. It was supposed to be death pay so that when I die, my family has money to live on. But we were also poor in that little town community that nobody was concerned that we used it as regular income. But when that siren went off on our little handheld devices, we immediately responded. We weren't concerned about, is the city going to pay us this time? Is the people, the Hutterites, going to pay us this time? Or are they just going to handle it themselves? Are we just going to say, oh, okay, it's the Hutterites? Well, screw them. They always tell us that they got it under control anyway, because they don't want to pay. No. We immediately went out. And if they said, hey, we got it under control, thanks, we just turned the vehicle around. But there were times where we were needed. There was the one up in Lethbridge on the indigenous property. And it was a big blaze. And they had to call out for help from the surrounding towns. And so, yeah, we did. Other people argued about whether they were going to get paid. We don't worry about that. We never worried. We just did it. Let the town council and the police or the fire chief worry about getting us paid. And so, yeah, I was on the news because we were the only ones that helped. And so the news covered us because they needed to call in extra people. And so it's long gone now, I guess. I don't know how I can find it in the archives if they kept the archives. But I'm the one who's sitting on top of the truck as father-in-law is driving parallel to the fire, keeping enough of a distance away so that we don't burn. But there I am. I'm a hoser. Proud of it. And that's the way Mormons, if this was the real church of Jesus Christ, that's how they would behave. None of this showy outward appearance of friendliness at first. But then if you don't go to church, if you don't want to become a Mormon, they then turn on you. So Mormonism is supposed to have 3 degrees of glory in the afterlife. And so we're not supposed to be stressed about whether people don't want to be Mormon. And yet, yeah, missionaries go out and they're like, oh, my mission's so hard, I can't get anybody to join the church. You know, I can't get them to understand how much joy I have as a captive prisoner in Lucifer's plan of happiness. Yeah. Especially now with the internet. Mormonism is just getting their butts kicked. As the church, thanks to me, did the gospel topics essays to respond to me. Travis is wrong. Joseph is not a translator. He's just a revelator. Dear God. Unbelievable. So, yeah. Nelson literally is murdering us. It's priestcraft enforced by murder. As he's got everybody paying them, as Governor Herbert is complying, yes, Master, we will open up, even though we're in red, which means we're supposed to be closed. The whole state of Utah is supposed to be quarantined. Big tent over Utah. But the cherry Kool-Aid, that's the red flavor, or the red color, is being drunk by everybody. As anti-maskers are demanding to drink the Kool-Aid. We want the Kool-Aid! We want the Kool-Aid! We want the Kool-Aid! That could be my title. Seriously, Mormons? Why am I even bothering to try to help you, to save you, to warn you? You've already made up your mind to drink the Kool-Aid. Ah, that could be the title.